Well, hello and welcome to the Bumper to Bumper podcast. I am Dave Riccio, here along with Jon Riggle, my co-host, and together we are putting you in the know when it comes to your car. Now, Jon and I both have experience. John's background is general automotive repair. That's
Yep.
where you started,
Mhm.
and you were the top of your trade, and
It's debatable, but
he
okay.
blushes. He blushes when I say that. But when we talked first time on the phone, you had, as a regular auto mechanic, you had done a lot of transmission stuff that most auto mechanics wouldn't touch.
Yeah.
So I thought that was impressive. But you said, well, Dave, I pretty much know everything about the car, and I need a more challenge. So I'd like to figure out transmission stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the conversation began. But so we're both, and I started in a general repair shop. That's
Sure.
what I started doing, and transmissions became something I got into later in my career. And when I bought Tri-City Transmission, it's been almost 20 years now. Leon used to say to people, selling transmissions is like selling coffins. He'd say,
Okay.
no one wants one, but everyone gets one at some point. So
All right.
I thought it was
Yeah.
crude and rude, but over the years I become a little more jaded, and I even say that term once in a while.
He wasn't wrong.
He wasn't wrong. And what I like to talk about, though, is it is actually no fun to call someone and say you got to spend a bunch of money on your car. I don't thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
It would be kind of like being a paramedic. When you're a paramedic, every time you show up, it's just not a good situation. Someone's hurt, somebody's wounded, there's some drama going on.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm using this as a little bit of a hyperbole, but every now and then you get to pull up and you deliver a baby on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Now that's
There
a
you go.
glorious, exciting day, right?
Yeah.
And so I use that as a little bit of a parallel because I don't like selling transmissions. If I can fix it for something simple, I am more than happy to, because you're going to like me a whole lot better, and I'm sensitive and I want to be liked.
Yeah.
So I want to call you with good news. And when people come in and I do the road test with them, they're always suggesting, well, maybe it just needs a service.
Mhm.
They're hoping for those inexpensive things rather than the big old nasty,
Yeah,
hey, I need
sure.
my transmission rebuilt or replaced or whatever it may be. And my figure is 70% of the time, that's all it is. It is something simple.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
got to take the steps to get to that answer. And so let's talk about transmission service, because the first thing that people do when they think they have a transmission problem is they call and get a transmission service.
Right.
As they've heard, maybe taking my vitamins. And it's just like taking vitamins. I mean, taking vitamins is not necessarily going to fix you.
Yeah.
It's a preventative thing, but there are times when a transmission service will fix a car.
I've always said that transmission service isn't really designed to fix your car. It's not intended to fix your car. It's to maintain a car with a transmission that operates normally to start with, okay?
Mhm.
There's a few situations now, and it's actually become a little more common,
It is.
where we are fixing cars with transmission services, but there are real specific situations where we do that. I do not like to haphazardly do a transmission service to a car that exhibits some type of transmission symptom without analyzing the situation first. Is this a car that has very low miles on it
Uh-huh.
and has a shudder in it or something like that? And that may be something, we'll talk the GMs. We have shutters in the GM products, and they came out with this revised fluid for it.
8L45,
Yeah,
Chevy
yeah.
Colorados.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
We got something written
Yeah,
on
we-
our website about that.
Yeah, we call it a super service, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
we take all that old fluid out, put new fluid in. So that is one specific situation where a specific service will correct the issue. And if you didn't know, if you went to a transmission shop who maybe wasn't really up on what they're doing, or a general
Mhm.
repair shop, they felt the shudder, they diagnosed it correctly, it's a torque converter shudder, and they sold you a transmission,
Right.
they would fix the car if
Would.
they used the new fluid when they put the transmission in, but that's not necessarily what it needed. So
Just needed fluid. Yeah, and I see that one. I see that one a lot. But where I want to caution people is that transmission service is a good thing.
Yeah.
And there's this reputation out there. I call it the old wives' tale, or the the myth. Is that people say, it's got over 100,000 miles on it. I don't want to service it because it's going to cause it to go out.
yeah.
Well, where that comes from, where that rumor comes from is sometimes transmissions are not serviced right.
Right.
And if they're serviced wrong, they go out.
Right.
And then the other place that it comes from is the first thing people do when they think they got a transmission problem is they go get it serviced.
Right.
Not always a good idea, because if you got a transmission that's having an issue, it's designed for healthy transmissions, you said.
Yeah.
So if you got a transmission that's having an issue and you go ahead and service it, you may kick it over the edge. So I don't, and people come in and we'll go drive their car and it won't act up. They say, well, if you guys don't find anything, you can go ahead and service it.
Right.
No, I don't want to do anything. And so people will come service it and they eventually end up seeing us anyway.
Yeah.
Because it didn't necessarily fix it.
Yeah.
First thing they did was get a transmission service. Well, for us, there's no evidence.
Yeah.
We look at that fluid. Sometimes we send it out to the lab or, things like that. But it tells us a story about the transmission.
Oh, we cut the filters open all the time.
Cut the filters open.
I've seen a million cars where guys have dropped the pan and said, "Yep, looks good in the pan. Cut that filter open."
That's where all the debris is.
The torque converter's laying in the filter, and it's like, this is not how this works. You can't just assess it by what's in the bottom of the pan unless you got big pieces laying down in there.
For sure, but you're saying in later years we are fixing more cars with service, and
Yes.
I'm going to give you a couple examples. Toyota is notorious for acting like their cars don't need maintenance. So in their vehicle manual, they act like it never serviced the transmission.
Yeah.
But how many times have we had a Toyota RAV4 or a Toyota Tacoma, and you and I go drive it, and you're like, I don't know, and it's a torque converter issue.
Yeah.
I say, well, let's try servicing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it a lot of times has to do with torque converters. And in the Chevy situation with these Colorados, and when they went to 8-speed, essentially the way they're controlling the transmission, they're bringing that converter on and off all the time because they're trying to milk the most fuel efficiency out of it without ride disturbances. So that converter's on and off all the time.
Yeah.
Well, their Dextron 6 was not good enough. And so they were starting to run into issues, 30, 40, 50,000 miles. So what they had to do was get with Mobil and come up with a new fluid. So we call it a super service because you got to get all the old stuff out.
Yeah.
So we'll pull the pan off, take the filter off, break open the filter, make sure the transmission's healthy. As long as it's healthy, pop a new filter in it, put the pan back up, and then we got to get all the fluid changed out. So a lot of times we'll take it, depending on the make, we'll take the transmission cooler line loose. We'll run the engine, which actually moves the pump in the transmission. So with that cooler line loose, it's pumping fluid out.
Yep.
And that's going into a waste bucket. At the same time, we're adding fresh fluid in. So we're not starving the transmission fluid. We're just exchanging the fluid.
Yeah, pumping it up. Yeah.
We're not big flush machine guys. We do it a very manual way. Flush machines, different fluids all the time. It sometimes doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But so that is, so Toyota, I think the Chevrolet. We talked on another podcast here about the squawk. Every now and then on these Fords, we got a 5.3 down.
5.3 squawk, and there's a special additive that comes in a little syringe, and you dump just.
And I think it's like $60.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh yeah. It's expensive, but yeah, it was to specifically stop that squawk, and what that squawk is a noise that occurs when the clutch plates chatter, and it. Ford determined it was just a kind of an anomaly that happened with those clutches and the way they reacted. So they came up with this stuff. It almost looks and feels like a wax. It's a white colored, real thick stuff. You just put a couple of cc's of it in the trans. It fixes that noise.
Right. So that may be one of the cheap fixes. Is I get a transmission service, and transmission services aren't as cheap as they used to be. We had one here the other day, the Nissan Frontier. That guy came in and he had a torque converter chatter.
Yeah.
He took it to the dealership. They serviced it and he left with the same torque converter chatter. So it's like he brought it to us because he was going to get his torque converter fixed, and he was a return customer for us. And you looked at the fluid, and I asked him on the road test. I said, "How much did you pay for the transmission service?" He said $200, which is too cheap. Right? So you looked at the fluid and you drove it. You go, yeah, it's like a converter symptom, but also could be fluid related. And you go, the fluid looks like crap.
Yeah.
I mean, if they change the fluid, it doesn't look that way.
Yeah.
So I had to call him up and say, I know you just paid somebody $200 to change your fluid, but we're going to have to do it our way, and it's going to cost $500.
Yeah.
But we did it, and to fix his car. And that truck only had 50 or 60,000 miles on it.
Yeah,
It was a weird one. But it was old.
Yeah.
I want to say it was not driven that much, maybe 10, 15 years old. So so fluid can do it. The other things that, that if you're hoping for a cheap repair at the transmission shop, what that might look like. The other one is shift adaptations. How many times have you seen that fix a transmission?
Well, quite a bit now. It tends to be more common, and
We're talking 10-speed transmissions. That's a
mhm.
busy transmission with a lot of computations happen really quickly. You're going to get across town. That transmission is going to shift 300 times by the time you get to the other side
Yeah.
of town.
Yeah,
And it does it all at the perfect efficiency. Doesn't always get it right, but pretty dang close.
right.
So their transmissions are busy. What are adaptations all about, and why does that fix a problem?
Yeah. So when you're using the term adaptations, with our transmission, since they're all computer controlled now, virtually all of them are computer controlled. The computer knows when it commanded the shift. We have speed sensors in the transmission. The computer looks at those speed sensors to see how long it took to complete that shift. We may use pressure switches in addition. We know when we commanded the shift. We know when the pressure switch changed, which means we've got pressure in our clutch. We can watch our ratio change. So there's ways we can determine how long it took to make that shift. And we want quick shifts. Clutches are vulnerable when they're under load during a shift because those clutch plates come together and we get some slip at them. If we can get them, locked up fast without causing too much shift shock, then we're good. And what these adaptations are is over a period of time, we adapt the amount of time and pressure that we apply to these clutches to achieve the shift that we want to achieve without getting this buck, and it's to compensate for wear over a period of time.
So the computer is learning as the transmission wears.
Constantly, yes.
People think it wears to the driving habits. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it's more about wear.
Yeah.
Something like, oh, I drive like a race car, I give it an Italian tune-up every other day.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's not
Well,
that.
and there's all kinds of strategies and stuff built into the late ones to keep people from burning them up anyways.
Right.
We have torque reduction on shifts. We'll
Right.
pull timing out. We'll do all kinds of things to reduce the amount of torque during the shift. That's one of the things that the tuners do is they turn off the torque reduction on top of the shifts
Blows up the
to get these, drag racer shifts. But, now you've got a bunch of shift shock and stuff out of it. But those adaptations can get skewed in some situations. And the biggest one for me is bad batteries.
Bad batteries.
I see bad batteries. I see batteries that are marginal. We've got, battery of the bad cell. It'll still start the car. And, maybe it cranks slow or something. But when accessories come on and off during shifts and stuff, that whole thing, all those solenoids require a certain amount of voltage and current to operate the solenoids, which control the clutches and the transmission. If those voltages go off, now all of a sudden the computer thinks, oh, we got a slow shift. Okay, so I'm gonna bump the pressure up. I'm gonna bump the pressure up. I'm gonna bump the pressure up. Well, now all of a sudden we're starting to get these harsh shifts. And if for some reason somebody puts a battery in it or something like that and replaces the battery, that doesn't mean those shift adapts got cleared.
No.
Now the car is fixed. So you got a good battery in it, and you go out and drive, and this thing may shift horribly.
Like
they
garbage.
do weird things. And that's usually when I see them go off.
Well, let me tell you what it takes. I know you know what it takes because you do it all the time. But, when I started in this business, there was 4 speeds, right? And then it was 6 speeds. 5 speeds, 5R55E in the Ford Rangers, right? Then we went to 6 speeds. Everything is pretty much 6-speed across the board.
Yeah.
And GM kind of had the in-between 8-speed, and then the 10-speed came out. Okay, so you clear out those shift adaptations. It doesn't just go to working perfectly.
Yep.
You have to go out and relearn the shift adaptations. So on a 10-speed transmission, I've seen one that you struggle with where it, just because of the wear and the circumstances, it might take you an hour's worth of time to relearn those adaptive values in the computer.
Oh, yeah.
But it is still way cheaper than a transmission.
Yeah. Definitely.
So shift adaptations are a big one. And then you mentioned solenoids. There's solenoids and pressure switches. Those are going to be some of the things that are going to be less expensive. And if you're in the transmission business, like we are, and we do the diagnostic steps, we spot bad solenoids, we spot bad pressure sensors, we spot those things, pressure switches. Now, some people, if you're not in the transmission business or not reputable maybe, you got a pressure switch that's out, well, you sell them a transmission.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't know any better, and I think sometimes that's the biggest problem. Is
Yeah,
people
I
don't
think it is.
they don't know what they
really
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's more that than someone that's less than reputable. So if you had a bad spark plug in an engine, it would be misfiring. Let's say it's a V8.
Mm-hmm.
You could fix it with a spark plug, or you could fix it with a whole nother engine.
Yeah.
Well, most technicians know how engines work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to sell you some spark plugs.
Right.
You're going to drive away that day. It's back to running smooth again.
Right. Right.
Now they come to a transmission where maybe they do 1 or 2 a year,
Mm-hmm.
where we do several a week,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they don't know what they're looking at, and they go, "Yep, that transmission's bad. It's internal." And
Yeah.
you get a transmission. Well, maybe there was a solenoid or a pressure switch, or they put the computer in the transmission a lot of times, or shift adaptations. There's all those things.
Mhm.
So that's just some of the hope that you have. Just because you think you have a transmission problem, you're not necessarily buying a coffin. Maybe a dude just needs some vitamins. Vitamins will fix it in that instance and get a transmission service.
I'll tell you what. How many transmissions have I fixed here by putting fluid in them?
Oh yeah, that would be the number one. The number one, and people don't
Incorrect fluid level is
Fluid
number
level
one.
is such an issue.
People come in and they're afraid they're going to spend, need an $8,000 transmission, and it's one of these new sealed transmissions,
Yeah.
which are none of them are sealed.
No,
None of them are
they're-
sealed.
They're sealed to Harry the homeowner,
Yeah,
or Harry
yeah.
the technician that doesn't want to take the time to look to see what the fluid level actually
unless
is.
you got that Audi that was in here the other day, which
Oh yeah, we had one the other day. You had to pull a transmission out to check the fluid level or something.
no, you had to
stupid
pull
like
the
that.
inverter out of it to check the
Yeah, it was a
level, and
hybrid.
the only thing you could do is drain and refill it. It was like, are you kidding me? This
Yes.
is crazy. I was a hybrid.
Yeah, so there's some weird instances, but fluid level becomes a thing, and people are like, my fluid level, I mean, it shouldn't be wrong, right? But it gets wrong from an improper service somewhere.
Yep.
Low fluid doesn't necessarily show up until the wintertime when it's cool out, because fluid expands and contracts. If it's low in the summer, you might not notice. If it's low in the winter, it may show up.
Yeah.
And then also with radiator replacements, or sometime, because that fluid doesn't when they take the radiator out, they took out some of the transmission fluid. And if they don't replenish it,
Yep.
because they don't work on transmissions every day,
Yep.
that's another reason. So there definitely is. They are very complicated. In the old days, we had solenoids. They were like light switches, on or off.
Yeah.
But the modern vehicle, everything is pulse width modulated. That means it's not on and off like your light switch in
Yeah,
your
it's
garage. It's
Very.
like your dimmer switch. And so that's where the adaptive values come in, because it's really dialing each and everything in. So
Yeah.
definitely they're not always. Don't think the worst. Because if you call a shop and ask for a price on a transmission, the price sounds right, you'll go in and get it whether you need it or not.
Yeah.
And I say 70% of the time people think they need a transmission, they don't. And it's something simpler that's less than their car payment. Thanks for joining us. For other topics you might be interested in, feel free to comment and subscribe. It keeps us going, keeps us motivated to do this show and to put you in the know. Thanks again. Bumper to Bumper Podcast. Well, hello, I'm Dave Riccio, your host of the Bumper to Bumper Podcast, and I would like to thank you for tuning in. If you want one of your car questions to be answered on our podcast, tap the link in the description for a chance to have your question featured. And while you are there, we would love for you to like and subscribe to see more Bumper to Bumper podcasts in the future.